Relive the nightmare of the man-eating lions of Tsavo. What if the savannah's greatest predator didn't want you dead but wanted to eat you? What if it wasn't just hunger but a dark primal desire that drove it to hunt you and not any other prey? The African savannah, a place of breathtaking beauty, where life pulsates wild and untamed. But there is a story that the savannah holds, a secret whispered by the wind among the thorny acacias, which transforms that beauty into a thin veil over an abyss of terror. It's not a children's tale nor an ancient myth. It's the true story of a nightmare, a horror that stained the nights of 1898 with blood, when two ferocious shadows rose to terrorize an entire construction site, leaving behind a trail of blood and a terrifying question: what can transform an animal into a demon? Imagine yourself there, in the beating heart of East Africa, 1898. The British Empire is tightening its grip on the continent, and to cement its control, it is building something monumental: the Uganda Railway, the Lunatic Express as they called it. Thousands of workers, mostly Indians and Africans, toil under the scorching sun, carving out a path for the steel rails from the wild land. Men from all backgrounds with different dreams and hopes, united by a single goal: to build an iron bridge across the green hell. Their destination is Tsavo, a rugged wild region where the Tsavo River winds like a silver ribbon between thorny bush and incandescent rocks. There, they were supposed to build a railway bridge, a colossal undertaking, but Tsavo wasn't ready to give in. Nature was absolute master there and would soon show its cruelest face. The days were exhausting, filled with the clang of hammers and shovels, blinding dust, and unbearable heat. But the real challenge began when the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky fiery red before giving way to a darkness that in Africa is more than just an absence of light. It is an almost physical entity, dense, impenetrable, populated by unknown sounds and invisible dangers. The stars, cold and distant, seemed like evil eyes watching from above. It was on these nights when the camp huddled around the flickering fires that true terror began to creep in. Workers sought solace in prayer, song, or simply sleep, unaware that their peace would be shattered. The first warnings were sporadic, almost whispers. Someone had disappeared during the night. A mangled body was found at dawn far from the perimeter. People thought it was an accident, some wild beast. But then the frequency increased. A lion. Then two. Two gigantic creatures, maneless, with reddish fur that blended perfectly with the scorched earth of Tsavo. Two silent, deadly shadows who didn't follow the rules of the savannah. They didn't hunt buffalo or zebra. They wanted men. They had become man-eaters. And this, my friends, is the beginning of a blood-curdling story. Not a hunt for survival, but a merciless slaughter. Their roars were not the classic territorial calls, but battle cries, echoing in the night, which made the air vibrate with tangible fear. And the wind that once brought relief, now carried the acrid metallic smell of terror. They were no ordinary lions. They were cunning, patient, and incredibly bold. They waited until nightfall when the camp was deep in sleep. Then, in the pitch darkness, their work began. Silent as ghosts, they infiltrated the camp. They leapt fences and slipped under tents. No matter how hard the workers tried to protect themselves, the lions always found a way. Imagine the startle of a man waking in total darkness, not from the cold or a bad dream, but from the heavy, hot breathing of a gigantic beast at his side. Imagine the rustle of torn canvas, a muffled moan, and then only silence. The body of a comrade disappearing into the hole left in the tent, dragged away into the darkness without a cry, without a chance to defend himself. One moment he was there by your side, the next he had vanished into thin air, carried away by that invisible horror. Every morning the count began. Every morning some man was missing. The tents, which had once been a safe haven against the elements, turned into death traps. The workers lived in a constant state of anxiety. They couldn't sleep. Every rustle, every shadow, every sound of the wind made them jump. Fear became a constant presence, more oppressive than the heat and fatigue. Construction of the railway stopped. No one wanted to stay. Those who could fled. Those who remained did so with the knowledge that each night could be their last. The lions, nicknamed the demons of Tsavo, or the ghosts of the night, were no longer just hungry predators. They had become a symbol of primal terror, a punishment inflicted by nature itself on those who dared to desecrate its land. It was not a simple hunt, it was an organized, methodical massacre, which destroyed not only bodies, but also spirits. The statistics are horrifying. Over 100 people fell prey to those beasts. Some sources say 35, others 135, but the truth is that the exact number will never be known. The mangled bodies, the lives obliterated in such a brutal way, left indelible scars. Entire families destroyed, dreams shattered. The construction site was paralyzed by despair. The men once full of hope were now ghosts wandering the field, their eyes filled with terror. Every shadow seemed to hide a monster, every noise evoked the roar of lions. The night was no longer a time of rest, but a realm of horror where death lurked behind every bush, under every tent. Attempts to capture or kill the lions proved futile. Traps failed, ambushes eluded. They were intelligent, almost possessed of an evil awareness. They always seemed to know where to strike, how to avoid danger. It was then that the project's chief engineer, Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson, entered the picture. He was a practical man, accustomed to challenges, but what he faced at Tsavo exceeded his every expectation. It wasn't a simple matter of engineering, but a fight for survival. Patterson understood that to save the project and the lives of his men, he had to face these beasts personally. And it was then that a hunt that would become legendary began, a confrontation between human determination and pure animal ferocity, weeks of nighttime stakeouts, nerve-wracking tension, and elaborate traps in the hope of ensnaring the ghosts. The lions, however, eluded every attempt, almost mocking their human hunters. They seemed to have an almost supernatural knowledge of the territory and the movements of humans. Their behavior was so anomalous that some believed they were evil spirits, not simple animals. Each failure fueled the legend and increased panic among the workers. Finally, after 9 long and terrifying months, his luck changed. On the night of December 9th, 1898, Patterson managed to shoot one of the two lions, a lucky shot, in the darkness. The wounded lion fled into the bush, but not for long. The next day, Patterson found him and with 9 more shots put an end to his rampage. But the terror wasn't over. The other lion was still out there. 3 more weeks of fear passed until, on the night of December 29th, the second monster also fell to Patterson's rifle after another exhausting hunt. The end of a nightmare, the beginning of a legend. The lions' bodies were enormous, incredibly large for maneless lions. They measured about 3 meters long from nose to tail tip. Subsequent analysis of their skulls revealed dental anomalies that likely prevented them from hunting larger, faster prey, pushing them toward easier prey, humans. But this, of course, is just a scientific theory. To the men of Tsavo, they were simply evil incarnate. Today, the skeletons of the Tsavo lions are on display at the Field Museum in Chicago, a macabre reminder of human frailty in the face of wild nature and primal horror. Their story is one that still resonates today, not only as a haunting legend, but as a window into a time when man was forced to face an unimaginable threat in a place where the darkness held secrets far more terrifying than anyone could imagine. A piece of history that reminds us that as much as we think we can tame the world, there are forces out there capable of reawakening ancestral fears. If you were fascinated by this terrifying tale, don't miss the next video.